escape path and the exact locations of the ship. If the attack begins too early, the enemy will control the fire. It begins too late, the soldiers may already be aboard. If the wind changes, the Flavius could threaten local hope or Orhan owns men. He divided responsibility careful. Some warrior must enter secretly, other must create a distraction. Scout must confirm the arrival of the enemy. A reserve force must remain ready in case the plan is discovered. Every group knows its purpose, but only Orhan understands how all the pieces are connected. Sahinsas expect Orhan to panic under the pressure of two armies. Instead of Orhan turns the trap back toward its creators. This difference reveals the gap between ambitions and leadership. Sahinsas wants power because he imagines the horror it will be bring. Orhan carries power because he is willing to accept the burdens of decisions that could destroy everything if they did fail. While the war plan develops, Bursa experience a difficult kind of joy. Years of suffering and separation have left many families waiting for reunion. Victories is not measured only by flags placed on towers, it is seen in people returning to their homes, prisoners meeting loved ones, and family discovering that survival is still possible. These scenes create an emotional contrast with approaching battles. Orhan world content celebration and dangers at the same moment. One city may be experiencing relief while another's army prepares to attack. Our rulers cannot remain inside the happiness of yesterday. He must protect it against tomorrow's threat. This is perhaps the loneliest part of leadership. The peoples can celebrate because Orhan constitutes watching the horizons. He wants to join their happiness, but he knows how quickly it can disappear. Every victory creates new enemies who fear the growing state. Nilufar sees the pressure inside him. She understands that Orhan rarely allows himself to rest. Even during peaceful moments, his mind continues arranged armies and studying possible betrayal. She wants him to remember that he is still a only husband, a sultan. Orhan knows who she is right, but duty gives him little freedom. He may dream of quiet days with his family, yet his position makes such days rare. He cannot place personal comfort above the safety of thousands. This does not mean he values his family less. It means his love for them is connected to the world he is trying to protect. Asporga arrivals bring another sensitive political and emotional development in loyal families. Marriages is rarely only a private matter. It can create a license, reduce threat, and connected different group. At the same time, it can produce jealousy, fear, and uncertainty inside the household. Nilufar must face this reality with dignity. Her pain cannot be dismissed with simply because political offer an explanation. She has stood beside Orhan through war, loss and hardship. Any change in the family affect her deeply. The story therefore present leadership not as a path where personal feeling despair, but as one where people are often forced to carry feelings silently. Orhan must balance political necessity with emotional responsibility. He cannot treat the women around him as peas on a political board. Each has a voice, a history, and a place in the futures of the state. Failure to respect this could create divisions at the heart of this household. The growing Ottoman structures need unity inside the ruling family. Enemies are always searching for private conflict they can turn into public weakness. A disagreement inside the palace can reach military commanders. Military commanders can form political group can eventually become rebellions. For these reasons, emotional honesty become a form of state protection. Orhan must speak clarity, listens carefully, and prevent silence from becoming resentment. His courage on the battlefield means little if cannot be face difficult conversations at home. Meanwhile, the plan from Iznik and Izmit reveal that Orhan has already moved beyond Bursa in his strategic thinking. Both locations hold great military and political value. Controlling them would reduce Byzantine power in the region and strengthen the road connecting Ottoman's land. Iznik carries deep symbolic importance. It is not simply another fortress. Its history, defensive and connected to Byzantine authority, make it a major objective. An attack on Iznik announces that Orhan is no longer satisfied with surviving beside the empire. He is prepared to challenge its most important positions. Smith offers control over another critical route. Together, Smith and Smith can support movement around the eastern Marmara regions. They can help protect trade, limit enemy reinforcement, and prepare the way for future operations. Caliphate becomes part of this wider plan. High ground and fortified position often determine which army control the surrounding road. By targeting such locations, Orhan can create a stronger positions before moving toward larger cities. This shows that this expansion is not random. Every smaller objective supports a bigger one. The new Byzantine Empire recognized the dangers. A weak response will allow Orhan to become stronger. Therefore, the Empire seeks allies, military pressures, and political divisions. He may not trust Sahinsas, but he can use Sahinsas' ambitions. This alliance is built on temporary interest rather than genius loyalty. The Empire want to weaken the Ottomans, Sahinsas want to weaken Orhan. Each believes he can use the other and later control the result. Alliances from through shared hatred often collapse once the common enemy is removed, but they remain dangerous whether while their goals are elegant. Orhan sees this weakness. He knows that the Emperor and Sahinsas do not truly trust one another. Their plan depends on cooperation, yet each side is likely hiding part of its intentions. Orhan can exploit this by creating confusion and forcing them to question whether the other has betrayed the agreement. False information become another's weapons. A report placed in the right hand can move an army away from its strongest positions. A message that appears stolen can make commanders change his plans. Orhan is therefore fought through minds before swords. His scouts and agency carry enormous responsibility. They must move among people who will kill them if their identity is discovered. They must remember details, identity lies, and deliver information quickly. A delayed warning can be as harmful as a false one. Orhan also understands the danger of rusting intelligence too easily. Enemies may intentionally allow information to be discovered. A report about 8,000 soldiers could be accurate, partly accurate, or designed to pull him toward the harbor. Before committing his forces, he must compare different sources and studies whether enemy movement supports the report. These cautions protect him from reacting emotionally. The larger the threat, the greater the temptations to move quickly or harm slow his mind even when time is limited. A rushed decisions could place his main army far from the true battlefield. Once he confirmed the dangers, speed became essential. Patience is useful before a decision, but delay after a decision can destroy the opportunity. Orhan moves his men with clear purpose, or horses are prepared, weapons checked, and routes selected. He does not explain every detail publicly. This presence of species means the even loyal camps may contain listening ears. So orders are divided. Some commanders believe they are preparing for one mission while secretly supporting and others. This protect the central strategy. The operation at Karasai's harbor also test Orhan's relationship with the local forces. The territory has its own leaders, soldiers, and interests. Some may welcome cooperation, others may resent Ottoman influence. Orhan must determine who can be trusted without creating open conflict before the mission begins. He knows that fear can create unexpected allies. Local commanders who worry about Byzantine expansions may support him even if they do not love Ottoman's growth. Political wisdom means understanding that cooperation does not always require friendship. Sometimes two sides work together because the alternative is worth for both. However, Orhan avoids becoming dependent on uncertain allies. The heart of the plan remains under his control. Support from others can strengthen the operation, but it cannot be allowed to decide whether the operation is successful. At night approaches, the harbor becomes the center of a hidden war. Imperial preparations continue under the belief that secrecy has been maintained. Supplies are gathered near the ship. Soldiers wait for orders. Commanders study the sea and imagine the moment they will surround Orhan. They do not realize that the man they plan to trap is already reaching toward them. These dramatic reversals capture the spirit of Orhan leadership. He does not allow the enemy plan to define his options. He creates a new situations where the enemy must respond to him. The first Ottoman group move carefully through darkness. Every sound matters. A dropped weapons could alert a guard. A frightening horse would expose the entire mission. The warriors carry fire materials, but they must protect them until the right moment. Other men prepare destructions away from the ship. A sudden movement near a gate may draw guards away. A small fire in a storage area may create confusion. The purpose is not only to damage property but to divide attention long enough for the main attack to reach the fleet. Orhan remains close enough to control the operations. He has learned from Osman that a leader presence changes how men face dangers. When warriors see Sultan sharing the risk, fear loses some of its power. Yet he also knows he cannot expose himself without reasons. If we die in a secret attack, the state may fall into choice. This balance between courage and responsibility from him everywhere as a warrior. He wants to lead from the front as a ruler. He must survive to lead tomorrow. The bravest action is not always the wisest. Orhan chooses the position where he can influence the mission without becoming an unnecessary target. At the chosen moment, the plan begins. Confusion spread across the harbor. Guards rush toward the first distributes. Ottoman warriors move toward the ships. Fire touches dry material, climbs along ropes, and reaches the wooden bodies of the vessels. At first, the Imperial soldiers believe the flames can be controlled. They form lines, carry waters, and shout orders. Then another ship catches fire. Wind carries burning pieces toward nearby desks. Smoke hides the attackers and blocks communications. The harbor became a place of panic. Soldiers were expected to sail into battles. New struggles to save their transport. Horses pull against their ropes. Supply cars block roads. Commanders give different instructions. Some orders men to defend the ship while others demand that they search for Orhan warriors. This confusion is exactly what Orhan instants. He does not need to defeat all 8,000 soldiers in direct combat. He needs to prevent from reaching the battlefield an organized force. Burning ship destroys supplies and broken commands can achieve what a tradition's battle might not. Still, he men face fierce resistance. Imperial Guard recover from the surprise and close the escape route. The mission changes from secret attack to open struggles. Swords meet in narrow spaces between warehouses and burning vessels. Orhan warriors cannot remain too long. Fire helps them, but it can also trap them. The harbor roads fill with smoke. Roof begin to collapse. Every additional movement increases the chance their reinforcement will arrive. Orhan gives the signals to withdraw in stage. One group protect and others archers slow the pursuing soldiers. The men carrying injuries are moved first. This discipline prevents the threat from becoming panic. A successful commanders know how to leave a battlefield. Many armies win the first part of an attack and then lose everything during withdrawals. Orhan prepares the exact before the first flame is lit. He knows which roads remain open, where fresh horses are waiting, and which unit will protect the rear. As in men move away, the burning harbor sent a message for beyond Karasai. The imperial plan has been broken before it could fully begin. Sahinsa's expectations of trapping Orhan between two armies is weakened. The Ottoman ruler has again attacked her struggle structures of the plan rather than strongest part of the army. The physiological effect may be greater than the physical damage. The imperial commanders know how that Orhan can reach places they believe were resource. Their secret preparations were discovered. Their ships were attacked before desperate. They must question their own officers and agents. Suspicions begins to spread. Who revealed the plan was it is local officials. A merchant, a soldiers, did Sahinsas share information? Did someone is even contemplate betrayal the emperor? Orhan has not only burned ships, he has placed doubt inside the enemy alliance. Sahinsas react with anger because the failed trap threatened his positions. He promised that Orhan could be insulated and defeated. Now the armor knew blame his strong failure. His ambitions began turning into the desperations. A desperate enemy is dangerous because he may stop protecting his own future. Sahinsas become willing to take greater risks, spread more destructions, and sacrifice more people. He cannot accept that Orhan continue to remain ahead of him. Orhan understands that defeating Sahinsas politically not too enough as long as the rival believes he has another chance. He will continue creating dangers. Yet Orhan also wants the truth of Sahinsas actions to become visible. Punishing him without clear evidence could divide sports and create the image of personal revenge. Therefore, the conflict moves toward exposures. Orhan must force Sahinsas into a positions where his betrayal can no longer be hidden. This may require allow him to believe that part of his plan is succeeding. Such strategies are dangerous. Giving an enemy space to move can allow real damage. Orhan must calculate how much risk his pupils can bear. He cannot threat live in space in a game everyone discussion is necessary. The final struggles therefore become more than a battles between two men. It becomes a conflict between two ideas of power. Sahinsas believe power exists to raise the men who hold it. The struggles accept the plan. Intelligence alliances, the loss of control, reveal the weakness, ambitions, and hidden. A man who cannot govern himself cannot govern a state. Sahinsas mind becomes trapped inside the belief that he was denied something that belongs to him. Orhan does not celebrate this collapse with careless joy. He understands that internal betrayal has already caused suffering. Removing one rival does not repair every wound. Trust must be rebuilt. The people must see that justice, not revenge, guided the result. At the same time, victory over the imperial plan creates new possibility. The roads toward Iznik and Izmit remain central to Orhan futures. The destructions at the harbor gives his time, but it does not remove Byzantine power completely. The empire will rebuild, new commanders will appear, other states will study the result and prepare different methods. Orhan knew there is no final victory for Guru Empire. Every achievement changes the battlefield and creates a new level of dangers. Bursa Joy, the defeated trap, and the expansion's plan to work together mark Orhan transformation. He is no longer merely continuing his father's unfinished work, he is creating his own style of rule. Osman's dream remains the foundation, but Orhan's vision now reaches beyond it. He sees a state connected by road, protected by disciplined forces, strength by trade, and guided by law. He sees cities joining our systems larger than our terrible boundaries. He also begins to understand that the greatest expansions may eventually take place across the sea. The ship at Karasai harbor represents both dangers and opportunity. The same maritime power used against him could one day carry his soldier west. Rumela stands in the distance as a future possibility as the state it may appears like a dream too large to speak about openly, yet Orhan life has taught him that every great reality begins as an idea others consider impossible. Bursa once seemed impossible year passed without its walls opening, but Orhan refuses to walls abandons the goal. His patience proved that him itself can become a weapon when our leaders know how to use it. The next stage of the journey will demand every even more capturing a territory is not only the beginning. He must build institutions strong enough to govern it. Judge must be appointed, market must be protected, road must remain open, soldier must be paid and disciplined. He must also prepare the next generation. A state that depends entirely no one man is not true secure. Orhan must create a system that continue when he is absent and survivors when he is gone. That requires trustworthy commanders, educated officials, respected scholars, and a clear method of responsibility. Personal loyalty remains valuable, but it must slowly become loyalty to the state and its principles. Orhan's family will remain part of this future. Nilufar Asporka, Aladdin, Fatma, Molhan, and the younger generation will each carry different responsibilities. Their relationships will influence politicals whether they desire it or not. Enemies will continue searching for a way to decide them. A marriage can become a diplomatic problem, a disagreement can become a rumor, the birth of a child can change question of successions. Private life still remain connected to public power. Orhan must therefore protect a unit without demanding silence. Strong families do not avoid every conflict, they learn how to resolve conflict without allowing outside to control it. The warrior also face change. Men trained for fortrines raid must become part of a larger and more organized military force. Discipline must increase. Different units must coordinate. Fortress and cities require permanent guards rather than temporary fighters. Some old warriors may struggle with this development. They are used to freedom, direct loyalty, and simple command structures. Administrations may feel slow compared with battles. Orhan must honor their contributions while preparing methods suited to a large state. Economic strength becomes equally important. Armies cannot fight without food, animals, weapons, and payment. Cities cannot recover without trade. Orhan must protect merchants and create confidence that roads under Ottoman authority are safe. Fair air taxation is essential. If taxes becomes too heavy, people will hide wealth, abundance land or sports. Rebellion if taxes are too low. The state cannot define itself. A wiser ruler must collect enough to serve the public without crushing the public. Water systems, farms, workshops, and markets become part of Orhan's battlefields after conquest. Rebuilding a demanding city may require more patience than capturing it. War destroy quickly, government repairs slowly. Religious buildings or community institutions also need protections. Different population must understand their right and responsibility. Orhan justice will be judged by how it treats those without power to defend themselves. These borders visions show why his ti- titles carry so much meaning. A bey may lead a tribe. A sultan must create order across many groups and territories. The swords can open the gate, but law must keep the gate source. Orhan enemies may call him growth as invasions. His supporters may call it destiny. History will judge the result through the state that emerges for the peoples living through the change. The most important question is simpler: does the new rulers bring justice or suffering? Orhan knows that speeches cannot answer these questions. Only daily actions can. A fair judgment, a protected market, a punished correct officers, or a safe road can build more loyalty than 100 promises. The latest great struggles therefore closes one chapter while opening another. The Byzantine Emperor attempt to place Orhan between two armies fails because Orhan refuses to wait beside the enemy plan. The ships at Karasai are targeted before they can carry their before forces Ahimsa's ambitions collapse under the weight of his own choices. Bursa experienced the joy that comes after years of sacrifice. Yet Orhan does not believe the story has ended. He stands at the beginning of a much larger age. Iznik and Izmit remain ahead. Byzantine power had been bounded but not removed. New license will from new betrayal will emerge. Most importantly, the dream has changed. Once the goal was to protect a tribe and win a homeland. Now the goal is to create a state capable of crossing generations and continents. Orhan looks at the land around him and sees more that mountains, port and road. He sees possibility waiting to accept. Every new town means more people whose safety will depend on his judgment. Every new victory means more questions that cannot be answered with a sword. He remembers Osman's struggles or understand that his father's greatest gift was not charity, it was direction. Osman showed his peoples where to walk. Orhan must now widens that road. The son honors the father's note by repeating every step, but by carrying the purpose into a new age. Osman was the flame that began the fire. Orhan must protect that flame from storm and use its light to guide a growing state. His victory does not make him free from fear. A wiser ruler always fears injustice, divisions, and failure. But Orhan refuses to let fears control his movement. He turns it into preparations. He knows enemies will return. He knows some friend will change side. He knows his family will face pain, but his warrior will continue paying the price of expansions. He cannot promise as easy futures. What he can promise is that the sacrifice will serve a purpose. He will not allow the state to become a personal treasure. He will not forget the men who died before its walls were raised. He will not abandon the peoples who placed their trust in his name. As the smoke rises from the destroyed ships and the light of victory reaches Bursa, Orhan's true journey begins. He is no longer standing Orhan only in the shadow of Osman Bey. He is stepping forward a Sultan Orhan, the rulers who must transform a brave frontier principality into a powerful and organized state. The walls of Bursa once appeared stronger than his dream. Time proved that stone could be defeated by patience. The imperial army appeared large enough to surround him. Strategy broke its movement before it reached the battlefield. Hinsa's belief ambitions could replace loyalty. His own actions destroy him. Each challenge leaves Orhan with a lesson. Walls are not permanent, numbers do not guarantee victory. Family can be both strength and valuability. Political friends may become enemies. Our rulers must see dangers before it becomes visible to everyone else. These lessons prepare him for the next stage. The struggles for Iznik will demand patience. The road toward Izmit will require control of land and sea. Future movement into Rumelia will require a vision that reaches beyond the experience of his people. Orhan does not yet know every battle waiting for him, but he understands the directions of history. Byzantine authority in the region is weakening. Turkish beyliks are competing for influence. Trade routes are changing. A new power will eventually shape the futures. The question is not whether change will come. The question is who guides it. Orhan inside to be that leader, not because he believes leadership belongs to him without questions, but because years of struggles have prepared him to carry its cost. His words prove his courage, his patience prove his discipline. His treatment of pupils will prove whether he truly deserves the titles. The first chapters of Kurulus Orhan therefore ends with a victory that is larger than a battlefield. Orhan defeats and attempts to control his choices. He protects the growing state of a combined threat. He proved that he can plan at the level of empire and outthink men who consider themselves more experienced. Yet the strongest image is not the burning fleet, the defeated rivals, or the capturing city. It is Orhan looking toward the next horizons. Behind him stand the sacrifice of Osman. Generation around him stand the peoples who trust his leadership. Ahead of him lies an uncertain world. He moved forward because a state cannot remain still. It must grow in justice, organizations, knowledge and strength expansions. Without these qualities, with collapse with them, a small principality can become the beginning of an empire. This is the rise of Sultan Orhan. It is not the story of a man receiving an easy inheritance. It is the story of son taking a difficult trust and proving that he can carry it farther than anyone expected. His greatest battles are sit ahead, but the foundation had been laid. The dream that began its test now reaches toward greater cities, open seas, and land beyond the horizons. As one age closes and others begin, the road to Iznik, the destructions of enemy ships at Karasai harbor had changed the directions of the war. But Orhan knew that one successful plan could not guarantee lasting safety. The fire had stopping thousands of imperial soldiers from reaching the battlefield at the right moment. It had damaged the imperial confidence and broken the joint trapped prepare against the Ottoman state. Yet the Byzantine Empire still possessed city, fortress, soldiers, wealth, and experienced commanders. A wounded enemy could become more dangerous than an unfitted one because humiliations often push rulers toward desperate decisions. When Orhan returns the harbor, his warriors welcome him as victory Sultan. They see the smoke behind him and understand that the armor greater's plan he failed. Many believe the anger had passed. He wanted to celebrate, rest, and enjoy the honors of another's achievement. Orhan allowed them to feel proud because warriors need to understand the value of their sacrifice. However, he did not allow celebrations to make them careless. As soon as leading commanders gathered, Orhan spread a large map before them. Bursa stood behind their current positions. Iznik and Izmit lay ahead. Constantinople remained farther away, protected by distance, walls, wealth, and the sea. Between these places stood roads, villages, mountains, rivers, and smaller fortresses. Every point could support Ottoman's movement or become a weapon in Byzantine hand. Orhan placed in figures near Iznik. The commanders understand immediately Bursa had fallen, but Iznik remained a strong center of Byzantine authority. It were powerful, its history was respected, and its positions allowed it to alliance the surrounded regions. As long as Iznik remained in imperial hands, but the Byzantine commander could use it to organize attack, collect supplies, protect importance, road and encourage resistance against Orhan. The city also carried a deep meaning. It was not an unknown border settlement that could be captured and forgotten. It had survived forgotten emperor, religious leaders, and soldiers, merchants, and scholars. Taking Izmit would announce that the Ottoman state was no longer on a small power surviving on the edge of the empire. It would show that Orhan could challenge the most important Byzantine cities in Anatolia. Some commanders wanted to march without delay. They argued that the enemy was confused after the destructions to the fleet. The emperor would need time to organize another army. A quick attack might reach Iznik before its defenders receive enough supports. Orhan listened carefully but did not and immediate answers. He knows that speed could create opportunity, but speed without preparations could also create disasters. Iznik and strong walls are experienced defenders. The Ottoman army had recently completed difficult operations. Horses were tired, weapons needed repair, and supply line had been stretched, starting alongside before organizing food, medical transport, and reinforcement would give the enemy an advantage. Orhan explained that a city was not conquered only when soldiers entered its gate. It was captured through every step that made the final attack possible. Grain had to arrive daily, arrows had to be replaced, wounded warriors needed treatments, road had to remain open, scout had to watch enemy movement, nearby forts had to be controlled so that help could not reach the city. His purpose was not to delay the campaign, his purpose was to begin it correctly. The councils divided into groups. Aladdin would examine the political and economical conditions of Iznik. Boran and security would study the road and surrounding defensive point. Other commanders would organize food, horses, side equipment, and fresh soldiers. Trusted agent would enter village near the city to learn how the local people viewed their Byzantine rulers. Orhan did not excuse that every Christian state living near Iznik would support the emperor. Many ordinary people care less about the name of the rulers than about taxes, safety, food, and justice. If imperial officers has taken their grain, punished them unfairly, or failed to protect them, they might secretly welcome change. On the other hand, it Ottoman soldiers harmed innocent villagers. Those same peoples would become loyal supporters of Byzantinism. For these reasons, Orhan repeated a strict orders. No farmer was to lose his harvest without fair payment. No houses was to be entered without reasons. No place of worship was to be damaged. No innocent person was to be pushed from the reactions of an imperial commander. Some younger warriors found these rules difficult to understand. They had lost friends in Byzantine attack. They had seen village bonds and families separate. They believed the people living under enemies rule shared responsibility for everything the simple had done. Orhan rejected this thinking. He told them that justice had not value. It is what applied only to friends. A true state had to protect innocents. pupils even when they spoke another's language to or followed another fate if the Orhan warriors repeated the currently of the method when they oppose their victories would lose their meaning. They would become another force spreading fears instead of building order. This approach was not only moral, it was not only strategic. Orhan wanted the gates of future cities of two pupils through trust whenever possible. Every person trusted fairly could become a voice telling others that Ottoman's rules did not mean destructions. Every unnecessary act of violence could give the Emperor hundreds of new supporters. While these preparations began, news reaches Constantinople. The Emperor learns that the fleet at Karasai had been badly damaged and that the army expected to sail against Orhan could not move as planned. Imperial officers blame one another. Some accused local commanders of weakness. Others believe spies had revealed the missions. A few suggested that Sahinsas had intentionally missed them. The Emperor understood that anger alone would not repair the loss. Orhan had once again showed that they could strike before the empire completed its plan. If the same method were used again, the result might be even worse. The Soms has advisors and demanded a new strategy. Instead of gathering one great army in a visible locations, smaller forces would move separately. Message would be carried through different routes. False order would be separate so that Ottoman spies could not identify the true plan. Loyal commanders would be placed in Iznik, Izmit, and the surrounding forts. The Emperor also ordered the city leaders to prepare the people for a long struggle. Grain stores had to be protected, wells had to be guarded, damaged walls had to be repaired. Anyone suspected of helping Orhan would face severe punishment. Fear soon entered Iznik. The city governors believed strict control would stop betrayal, but his method created more hatred. Merchants were questioned, farming arriving with food were searches, families with relatives outside the city were watches. Soldiers entered home looking for secret letters. People who complained about taxes were called disloyal. The governor saw enemies everywhere. The more afraid he became, the more cruelly he acted. He did not understand that fear driven rule could damage a city from within faster than an attacking army. A merchant named Loyal becomes one of the many people caught between the two sides. He had traded across the regions for years and knew Turkish, Greek, and several local dialects. He had sold cloth in Byzantine towns and bought animals from Turkish villages. He did not see the world as a simple division between two peoples. For him, war means closed roads, empty markets, hungry families, and growing dangers. Loin and once believed the imperial government would protect trade. Instead, soldiers began taking goods without full payment. Officials demanded extra taxes to prepare Isnik Forstein, his old son, was forced to work on the walls. His younger brother disappeared after being accused of passing information to the Ottomans. Leon did not know whether the accusation was true. He only knew the governor refuses to give the family an answer. One evening, an Ottoman agent approached him outside a village market. The agent did not immediately ask for military secret. He first asked how to the people of Iznik were living, where food prices rising, where soldiers being paid. Did, did cities trust the governor? Were the roads safe? Lord answers carefully. He understood that speaking to the Ottomans could lead to his accusations, yet he also understood that remaining silent would not protect his family from the governor's cruelty. The agent gave him no gold and made no great promise. He said only that Sultan Orhan wanted to avoid unnecessary suffering. If the city opened peacefully, his peoples would be protected. If the governor forced a long signs, hunger and diseases could harm thousands. Lon carried those words back with him. He did not suddenly become the Ottoman porter's trust could not be created through one secret meeting, but for the first time he began considering that the dangers facing Izmit might not come only from outside its walls. Meanwhile, Orhan visited Bursa is inspect the city after its capture. He refused to treat Bursa merely as a military prize. New official had been appointed, but he wanted to see whether they followed his orders. A state could lose public trust quickly if local officers use the rulers must name to enrich themselves. The entire market without a large public announcement. He spoke with shopkeepers, craftsmen, and travel. Some praised the improved safety to the road. Others complained the curtained soldiers had demanded free food. One old farmer said a taxed colters had mired his head land unfairly. Orhan ordered an investigation. The tax collectors belonged to a family that he had supported Osman for years. Some advisors suggested handling the matters quietly to avoid embarrassing loyal men. Orhan discharged long device did not given anyone permissions to appear the peoples. In fact, those closest to the ruling family had a greater responsibility to act correctly. When evidence proved the farmer complaint, the collect were removed and ordered to return what he had taken. Orhan made the judgment public. He wanted the people. The great state is not created in a single battle, it is built through years of patience, sacrifice, difficult choices, and endless struggles. Kulus Orhan present this trust through the journey of Orhan by a warrior who inherits not only the options of these fathers but also the weight of an immense dream. Osman Bey spent his life established an independent land for his people. He fought powerful commanders, dangerous traitors, ambitious tribal leaders, and mighty empires. Yet the state we created was still young and surrounded by enemies. When responsibility finally moved toward Orhan, the son could not simply enjoy the victory of this father. He had to protect that victory, strengthen it, and take it much farther. Orhan's story begins at a time when his name is already known on the frontier. He is no longer the experienced young man who needs to prove that he can hold a sword. Years of war have turned him into a disciplined commander. His enemies understand that he is brave, but bravery is no longer his greatest weapon. His real strength in his ability to study his opponent and make them believe that they are winning before the closes the trap around them. Bursa stand before him like a giant wall separating the young Ottoman principality from its futures. The city is rich, heavy, protected, and deeply important. It controls roads, trade, frame, land, and communication. Capturing it would not be an ordinary military victory. It would be change the political balance of the entire regions. For that reason, Bursa becomes more than a city in Orhan's eyes. It becomes the door to the future. For Orhan, warriors remain around Bursa. They watch its gate, study its tower, cut its road, and challenge its defenders. Seasons change, soldiers grow older, and many men lose their lives. But the walls continue to stand. A weaker leader's might and the sign to protect his bride. Orhan does the opposite. He understands that our rulers must not confuse patience with weakness. Sometimes the most powerful move in the remain in place until the enemy has used every resource and made every possible mistake. Inside Bursa, the Byzantine commanders believe that he length of the switch proves Orhan failure. They see their walls and image that stone will always protect them. They look down from the tower and see Turkish tents spread across the land. To them, these tents represent a tried army waiting for an impossible victory. They do not understand that the sign itself are changing the regions every month. That Bursa remains surrounded. Nearby settlements becomes more dependent or Orhan merchants begin searching for new routes. Local villagers make agreements with Turkish commanders. Small fortress bound whether Paul can truly protect them. The walls may still stand, but the world outside those walls is slowly moving into Orhan's hands. This is the first great lesson of Orhan's rise. He does not always attack the strongest party of the enemy. He attacks the system that keeps the enemy strong. Bursa needs food, soldiers, money, horses, weapons, and spoils from other Byzantine lands. Orhan works to weaken every one of these connections. He knows that if the city is isolated, its wall will eventually become a prison for the peoples hiding behind them. However, Orhan's mission is not only military. He must also manage the expectations of the men around him. Some warriors want an immediate attack. They believe that courage means rushing toward the walls. Even when the cost will be terrible, others have become tired after years of waiting. They wonder whether the dream of Bursa has become too expensive. Orhan must keep both groups united. He cannot allow impatience to destroy his army, and he cannot allow executions to weaken its spirit. He waits to his warrior not as men waiting outside a city, but as the builders of a new age. He reminds them that their suffering is not meaningless. Every cold night, every lost friends, and every delayed victory is part of a larger purpose. They are not fighting for personal treasures. They are fighting so that future generations can live under a stronger and more just state. This vision separates Orhan from ordinary commanders, and ordinary commanders can order men into battles. A true rulers give them a reasons to endless. Orhan understands that an army does not survive through steals alone, it survives through belief, yet faith in a cause does not remove dangers from within. The young Ottoman's land contains different families, commanders, advisors, and tribal interests. Every powerful man has his own ideas about leadership. Some support Orhan because they respect his abilities, some supports him because he is Osman's son, others hide their jealousy behind polite words. They are willing to obey only while they believe obedience will benefit them. Sahinsa has become one of the greatest examples of this hidden ambitions. He is not a simple enemy standing outside the tribe. He understands Turkish traditional political relationship and the weakness that can divide powerful families. He knows that destroying Orhan with a sword may be difficult. Damaging trust is Orhan could be much easier. A ruler faces two kinds of enemies. The first attack openly, the second smiles, offers advice, and waits for the right moment to create doubt. Orhan can prepare him shield again an open attack, but the hidden enemy demands a different kind of awareness. Every decision must be examined, every rumor must be traced, every sudden friendship must be questioned. Sahinsas used pride as his weapon. He presents himself as a man who deserves influence. He tries to make others believe that Orhan's victory are the result of family privilege rather than talent. He quietly encouraged the idea that leadership should be shared, challenged to transfer. His purpose is not merely to disagree with Orhan. He wants to stand. When Orhan stands for Orhan, this creates a painful challenge of organs. Commanders can be attacked without hesitation. A rival from the same world must be handled carefully. If Orhan acts too quickly, people may accuse him of fearing competition. If he waits too long, Sahinsas may grow stronger. Later often means choosing between two dangerous paths and fighting the one that causes the latest harm. Orhan refuses to enter an emotional fight. He studies Sahinsa's notice instead of reaction to this world. This patient frustrates the viral. Sahinsas want angers because anger creates mistake. Orhan gives him silence, observations, and controlled response. He understands that an ambitious man often exposes himself when he believes no one has noticed his plan. While political tensions grow around the tribe, the Byzantine side prepares its own resistance. The empire may be weakened but it is not helped. Its ruler understand the dangers represented by Orhan. They know that Osman state was once viewed as a small frontier power. Now its barriers stand before major cities. Its influence reaches across important roads, and its leader negotiate from a position of growing strength. The Byzantine Emperor and his commanders do not see Orhan and another temporary raiders. They see him as the beginning of a lasting change. It puts a false. Other cities may follow if Orhan control the surrounding territory. Byzantine authority in the regions could break apart. Therefore, the struggles become larger than the defense of one city. The empire must either stop Orhan or accept that its control in Anatolia will continue to shrink. Flavius appears as one of the most dangerous Byzantine figures in the struggles. He carries military skills, personal angers, and a desire for revenge. He does not fight only because an emperor gives him orders. He hated, gives every battle a private meaning. This makes him bold, but it also makes him unpredictable. A soldier fighting for duty can sometimes be understood. A soldier's fight from hatred may accept any cost. Flavius is prepared to use deception, secret attack, and emotional manipulations. He wants Orhan to experience loss, not merely defeat. He understands that attacking the people around our leaders can cause deeper pain than attacking the leaders directly. Yet Flavius is not shown as a man without inner conflict. His path brings him close to peoples he was taught to hate. The more he enters their world, the more difficult it becomes to see them only as enemies. This creates one of the most human tensions in the story. Political power tells people who they must fight, but personal experience sometimes destroy the simple pictures created by politics. Fatma Horns become connected to this conflict in a way neither side fully expected. She carries the courage of her family, but she is not simply another warrior placed in the story to support Orhan. Her choices reveal that strength can appear through compassion, loyalty, and the willingness to protect others. She is surrounded by men who believes control comes through violence, yet her presence exposes the emotional weakness hidden beneath their armor. Flavius finds himself divided between revenge and a feeling he does not want to accept. Every step toward Fatma pulls him away from the clean cannonadly of hatred. He may continue to serve his cause, but his heart no longer follows his orders without resistance. These internal struggles make him more dangerous, is more some moment, and more valuable in others. Orhan cannot build his strategy around the possibility that an enemy may change. He must judge Flavius by his actions, even when sign of humanity appears. Past attacks cannot be forgotten. A ruler who allows personal hope to replace cautions may place an entire people to risk. Orhan therefore continues to prepare for Flavius and a serious threat. At the same time, Orhan's relationship with Nilüfer Horn give the story a quieter emotional center. Nilüfer understands the cost of Orhan's missions because she lives with the consequence every day. When he leaves for war, he cannot know whether he will return. When victories arrive, she knows another challenge will quickly follow. The life of rules wife is not protected from politics. It is deeply trapped inside politics. Nilüfer must manage the household, maintain unity, understand terrible traditions, and carry the pressure of representing Orhan. Futures her positions bring respect, but it also brings judgment. Every action is watched, every silence is interrupted, every moment of fear must be hidden behind calm behavior. Her personal suffering gives her strength but also creates wounds that remain beneath the surface. The loss of children leaves a fear that no victory can remove. When she receives new hope of mothers, happiness arrives together with anxiety. She wants to believe in a better future, but memory reminds her so quickly joy can disappear. Orhan supports her not as a distant ruler but as a husband who understands her pain. The relationship show another side of characters. On the battlefield, he must appear certain. With Niloufar, he can admit that he also carries fear. He cannot promise that life will never hurt them again. He can only promise that she will not face that fear alone. These personal moments are important because Orhan dream is often discussed through cities, rhymes, and political order, yet the futures he is building must alone continue. Futures our state cannot survive if its leaders will land but lose their humanity. Nilufars remind Orhan why peace matters. The purpose of war is not endless war. It is the creation of security strong enough to allow ordinary life to grow. Maulana Hunt also plays a major role is preparing the next generations. As the mother of Orhan, she has watched his development from childhood. She remembers the boy behind the commanders. This gives her a perspective that others do not possess. She knows his strength, but she also recognizes his weakness. His sports is not blind. She does not protect Orhan from every Christmas simply because he is her son. She understands that a future ruler must be tested. Love without discipline would weaken him. Therefore, she sometimes allows him to face difficult situations without immediately stepping forward to rescue him. Molhan authority also becomes important in the relationship between the women of the family. She prepares Nilufar for greater responsibility, teaching her that leadership inside the tribe carries its own dangers. A leading woman must understand people's supplies, alliances, family tensions, and public expectations. She must know when to speak, when to remain silent, and when to take commands. The transfer of responsibility is not shown as a simple gift, it is test of characters. Nilufar must demonstrate that she can place the need of the peoples above personal emotion. She must become strong without becoming cruel and comparisons without becoming weak. Molhan knows that the futures of the state will depend not only on Orhan victories but also on the orders maintained behind him. Aladdin Bey adds and others important layer of his family. He is Orhan's brother, but he cannot be reduced to the role of a jealousy prince or a silent supporter. He has his own intelligence, abilities, and way of viewing the world. The relationship between the brothers become essential because powerful families are often destroyed and succession turns blood into rivalry. Enemies understand these dangers. If Orhan and Aladdin can be divided, the state will become easier to control. Rumor can be spread, respect can be turned into comparisons. Small disagreements can be present as deep conflict. Every achievement by one brother can be used to create insecurity in the others. However, the strength of their relationships comes from understanding that serve can take different forms. Orhan may lead armies and expand borders. Aladdin may use knowledge, planning, medicines, diplomacy, or careful observations. One role does not become valuable by making the other smaller. The state needs both actions and through their unity also respect Orhan Osman's greatness success as a father. He does not raise his son merely to seek positions. He raised them to serve a cause larger than themselves. This does not remove every disagreement, but it creates a foundation strong enough to survive disagreement. They may argue about strategy while remaining loyal to the same purpose. Osman Bey's presence continued to shape every part of Orhan's journey. Even when Orhan is making independent decisions, his father's legacy stands behind him. This legacy is both a source of strength and a heavy burden. People compare every choice Orhan makes with what Osman might have done. A victory is thread as the constitution of Osman's greatness. A mistake is used to question whether the son is worthy of the father's. Orhan cannot explain the comparison. He must learn to respect Osman's path without becoming a copy of him. Every age creates different challenges. Osman built power during a period of foundations. Orhan must transform that power into an organized and expanding state. The skills needed for survival are not always the same as those needed for growth. Osman often broken closed doors through fearless actions. Orhan frequently looks for the hidden road behind the door. This does not make one man greater than the other. It shows the natural development of leadership. The fathers begin the dreams, and the son must discover how to continue it under new conditions. There are moments when Osman questions Orhan's choices. These moments are painful because Orhan wants his father's wrath, yet they are also necessary. Leaders who receive only praise become careless. Osman challenges force Orhan to explain his plans, examine his mistake, and strengthen his judgment. At times, commands may even appear to move away from Orhan. For proud warriors, losing authority in public can feel worse than losing a battle. Orhan faces this test without avoiding his duty. He does not allow disappointments to become serving the cause, proving that his loyalty is not dependent on holding a title. This becomes one of the clearest signs that he is ready for greatest leadership. Anyone can appear loyal while receiving honor. True loyalty revealed when honor is removed. Orhan's ability to continue working under pressure show that he values the state above his own pride. His response also teaches the warrior around him. They see that leadership is not a piece of clothing that can be taken off. Even without formal command, Orhan continues to observe the enemy, protect his people, and prepares new plan. Authority may be given by a ceremony, but leadership is recognized through actions. The struggles around Bursa becomes the place where these qualities are tested together. Orhan must use intelligence without losing courage, patience without becoming passive, and ambitions without becoming careless. Every road into the city is watched. Every supply movement may be a trap. Every secret messenger could be working for two sides. Rather than ordering one costly attack against the walls, Orhan uses smaller actions to weaken the city. Supply routes are treated, hidden passages are discovered, local alliances are changed, enemy commanders are forced to divide by attentions. The purpose is not make Bursa defend everything at once. This strategy slowly creates pressure inside the city. Food becomes more valuable, soldiers become suspicious, cities begin questioning these rulers. The Byzantine commander must decide whether to not protected the walls, the road, the stores, houses, or the hidden tunnels. Every choice leaves another weakens open. Orhan understands that fear spreads faster when people cannot see its source. If we attack in one place, Bursa could focus its defense by creating threats its many directions before the city to execute itself. The defenders began reacting to Orhan instead of controlling their own strategy. Still, these plays carry great risk. Secret missions can fail. Captures barrier may reveal information under futures. A signal traitors can destroy months of preparations. Orhan must choose the right man for each mission and give them enough knowledge to success without allowing one person to know the entire plan. Boran Bey, Curity, and the other experienced ops represent the living bridge between Osman's era and Orhan's. They carry old loyalties, battlefield memories, and a deep understanding of the sacrifice that created the estate. Their supporters give Orhan strength. It is also creates responsibility. These men have already risked everything for the fathers. He must prove that their continued sacrifice has meaning. Boran's courage is not based on the idea fears. He understands dangers clearly and moves forward despite it when the entire enemy territory. He knows that captures could lead to suffering and death, yet he accepts his missions because Bursa cannot be opened through ordinary method alone. When such missions go wrong, Orhan faces a terrible decision. A commander must divide how much he can risk to save one man. Leaving a loyal warrior behind may protect the larger plan, but it can destroy trust. Attempting a rescue may save our brothers while preserving may others in danger. Orhan refuses to view his warrior as tool that can be thrown away. Their loyalty has value because his loyalty to them is equally strong. He does not make reckless rescue attempts, but Nathars does not abandon them easily. He looks for a path that protects the missions while bringing his men home. This relationship creates the spirit of Ottoman force. The warrior knows that the man is battles, but they also knows that will be not forgotten. Their leadership shares dangers with them. She does not remain safely behind while offering others toward death. That shared risk creates a level of trust that money cannot buy. Security brings a different energy. His long journey has taught him that identity can change through fate. Friendship and experience often bring warmth into dark situations, but his lighter nature should not mistake for weakness. When dangers arrive, his loyalty becomes completely serious. His presence reminds the younger warrior that victory is not also about anger and army must preserve its spirit. Men who live under constant threat need moment of homage, brotherhood and hope. Without these things, even the strongest force can become emotionally empty. As Orhan plans move forward, the political map around him becomes more complicated. The Byzantine Empire is not the only concern. Neighborhood Turkish Beylik have their own ambitions. Some leaders fear Byzantine's power, while others fears Orhan. Growth, even more shared language or faith, does not automatically create political unity. The rise of one principality can make others feel threat. They wonder whether Orhan's promise of unity will eventually become control. They may respect his victories while secretly hoping he fails. This creates a dangerous environment in which alliances can change quickly. Orhan must speak with leaders who may become friends one day and enemies the next. He cannot treat every disagreement as betrayal, but he also cannot trust every promise. Diplomacy becomes a battlefield where words replace words and smiling face hide sharp intentions. Karasai territory becomes especially important because of its position and maritime strength. Control of sports and ship can change the futures of Ottoman's warfare. Until his point, much of the struggles has taken place across land. Valley roads and fortress walls seize power open a new world. Orhan recognized that a state limits to land routes can be trapped. Ship allow soldier supplies and messages to move in a way the enemy may not expect. They also create the possibility of crossing into new lands. Therefore, Karasai is not simply another neighborhood region, it is a doorway to expansive beyond Anatolia. This long-term vision showed that Orhan is thinking beyond his immediate battles. Bursa remains important, but he does not allow one objective to hide the larger map. He studies Izmit, Constantinople, the Marmara coast, and the routes leading west. Each place is connected to the next. Lesser commanders might celebrate after taking one fortress and believe the mission is complete. Orhan every see victory as a preparations for another responsibility. Land must be protected, peoples must be governed, taxes must be organized, market must remain safe, and soldiers must be situations. Conquest without administrations create temporary power. Orhan wants lasting order. This is why the titles of Sultan becomes more than a sword. It marks a movement from tribal commanders to state rule. This change is not only it's how others address him, it is possible in the scales of his decisions. He is no longer thinking only about the safety or one tribe. He must consider towns, farmers, merchants, scholars, soldiers, craftsmen, and families from different backgrounds. The peoples living under his authority do not all share the same history. Some are Muslim Turks who have followed the family 5 years. Others are Christians who previously lived under Byzantine rulers. Some welcome change because they are tired of heavy taxes of corrupted commanders. Others fears that a new rulers will bring new suffering. Orhan must prove that his state is not built only for those who fought beside him. Justice must each people when who stood on the opposite side. This one of the hardest tests of conquest. Winning a city required force, keeping it required fairness. He understands that unnecessary cruelty would create permanent rebellions. If local peoples believe the new government threat their lives, home, and belief, they will support any enemies promising rescue. If they experience order and justice, resistance will slowly weaken. This does not mean Orhan becomes soft toward treasons. He knows that mercury without limits can encourage future betrayal. The challenge is to separate ordinary people from those actively planning violence. Punishment must be direct, not uncontrolled. Their regions and moral dismiss of his leadership guides me of these decisions. Orhan sees authority as a trust rather than personal ownership. Land, wealthy, and military strength creates responsibility, therefore, they create comfort. Our rulers will be judged by how to protect the weak, controls the powerful, and applies justice. This belief does not make every decision easy. In fact, it sometimes makes decisions more difficult. Orhan cannot simply choose what benefits him. He must consider what is right, what is necessary, and what will protect his futures. These goals do not always point in the same directions. At times, protecting house thousand may require sacrificing a smaller group. At others time, saving innocent may leave a law and enemy commanders to escape. Orhan cannot avoid the normal moral cost of leadership. He can only make each decisions with awareness and accept responsibility for the result. At his influence growth, the Byzantine court direct attack he has failed to remove him. The sign has not broken his patient. Secret agents have not destroyed his family. Therefore, his enemies seek to surround him several threats at once. The emperor understands that Orhan is strongest when he control the timing of conflict. To defeat him, the empire must force him to respond in several places. One army can threat from one direction while another force approach through a different route. Sciences can create pressure from within the Turkish political world. Together, these threats may place Orhan between two armies and leave him without a safe road. On paper, the plan appears powerful, and if Orhan moves against the first army, the second can attack his rear. It remains defensive. His enemies can combine their strength. If he retreats, his reputations may offer, and neighborhood rulers may turn against him. However, the plans depend on securely. The two forces must leave Karasai harbor. Thousands of soldiers must cross without Orhan learning that their number of destinations. This is where his intelligence network become an important in his army. Information reaches Orhan that a force of 8,000 soldiers is preparing to move from Constantinople. This number cannot be ignored. An army of that size could change the result of major battles. It is the rich intended positions. Orhan may truly become trapped. His commanders expand him, prepares to defensive war. Will can be strength soldiers, can be gathers road, can be blocked. Yet Orhan sees that defense alone will the empathy to control the situation. To know that loyalty to the Sultan could not be used as protection against justice. The decisions created respect among ordinary citizens, but it also worried some terrible leaders. They feared some terrible leaders. Orhan growing state would replace relationship with stricter law in the past. As respected family could solve problems through influence and private disagreement. Orhan systems and important man could be unfinished ban could be finished. Before everyone, a few leaders began whispers that Orhan was moving too far from the old terrible way. They claimed the state was becoming cold and controlled. They missed the time when discussions could be changed through family ties. Aladdin understood the deeper problem. The Ottoman state was growing from a principality into a larger political structure. Personal loyalty remained important, but it could no longer be the only foundation of government. Cities containing thousands of people required written records, organized taxes, judge guards, markets, and stables rule. He explained to Orhan that change had to be introduced carefully. If old barriers felt ignored, they might become bitter. If city officials lacked control, corruption would spread. The state had to combine the spirit of the frontiers with the order needed for urban life. Orhan agreed he did not want to destroy the traditions that had carried his people through difficult years. Courage, brotherhood, hospitality, faith, and loyalty remained essentials. However, he knew traditions could not become excuses for disorder. He invited respect to terrible elders to Bursa and asked them to take part in the new administrations. Some would advise judge about local customers, others would survive road safety or help settle disagreement between villagers. Orhan wanted them to see that organized government did not mean removing their value, it means directing their experience toward a wider expose. These divisions reduced tensions, but it did not remove every fear. Growth always created winners and losers. Men who had once controlled small territories safety now answers to control authority. Some accepted the challenge, believe in Orhan visions. Others believe while waiting for an opportunity to recover their independence. Orhan knew hidden resistance would remain. He could not imprison everyone who disagreement with him. A ruler surrounded only by frightening supporters would never the trust. He needed to separate honesty, concern from dangerous rebellion. During this period, Nilüfer Hunt carried increasing responsibility inside Bursa. She met women from Turkish and Christian families, listened to complaints, and organized sports for windows and children affected by the sign. She understood that political peace after begins inside homes. Many families had lost men during the long struggles. Some had supported the Byzantines while others had secretly helped the Ottomans. Their pain was the same. Children needed food, women needed protections from dishonest officials and soldiers. Damaged houses needed repairs. Nilüfer refuses to ask, giving mothers which sides their sons he saw before helping them. This surprised some peoples. They expected the ruling family to ward only Ottoman supporters. Her actions spread quickly through the city. People began coming to her with problems that they feared. Presenting to military officers, a Christian woman explained that a group of soldiers had taken over the park to the home. A Turkish window said merchants were charging unfair prices for grain. Nilufar investigated both complaints. She did not only solve every problem through kindness alone. Some cases required punishment when soldiers ignored order and abused civilians. She reported them directly to Orhan, the guilty man removed from duty. Nilufar influence grew, but so did jealousy around her. Some women believe her closeness to Orhan gave her too much authority. Orhan worried about a Sporka palace in the household and what future children might mean for successions. Every gesture was interrupted politically. Sporka herself understood that she had entered a world where personal relationship could affect the fate of the state. Her background gave her knowledge of Byzantine customs, nobles, families, and court politicals. This knowledge could help Orhan, but it also made some Ottoman women suspicious of her. They wondered whether her loyalty truly belonging to Orhan or whether part of her heart remained connected to the empire. They watched the servant around her. They questioned every message she received. As Porca knows that direct angers would make the suspicions worse, she chose patience. She begins helping translate letter and explaining the behavior of Byzantine commanders. She described how imperial courts often used marriages, religious weather, and rivalry to control political decisions. Orhan valued his knowledge. He had fought Byzantine soldiers for years, but understand their court required a different kind of experience. Sporka could recognize titles, symbols, and relationships that Ottomans against might misunderstand. Nilufar saw the value as well, even though the situations remained emotionally difficult. She did not suddenly lose every feeling of jealousy or concern. Instead, she decided not to allow those feelings to become a weapon for outsiders. The two women did not become close before. Immediately, trust developed through shared responsibility. One day, they disagree over the treatment of a Byzantine noble family in Bursa. Sporka argued that humiliating the family could encourage resistance among other nobles. Nilufar answers that ordinary peoples would reject it, any sign that former rulers remained above the law. Their discussions become intense, but it also revealed that both women cared about the stability of the city. They finally agreed that the noble's family would keep its home and religious freedom but would lose the special tax privilege it had enjoyed. It this way the family was protected from revenge without receiving unfair advantage. Orhan viewed their solutions with approvals, combined political wisdom with justice more impartially. It showed this agreement inside the household did not need to become permanent divisions while Bursa slowly adjusted to Osman's rules. The military preparations for Iznik continue returns with map of the surrounding land. The city won't be approached through several routes but each carry dangers. One road crossed open ground where Byzantine archers could easily observe movement and other passes through for a situation suitable for ambush. A third was longer but could sport supply cars more safety. Security had studied smaller forts controlling the road. One fortress stood on high ground and could signal Iznik whenever Ottoman forces approached, and other protect a route used to bring grain into the city. A third contained only a small number of soldiers but had a strong wall. Orhan decided that attacking Iznik directly would be foolish while these positions remained active. The small fortress had to be insulated first. It divided the campaign into states. The signal fortress would be captured quality so that the city could not receive an early warning. The grain road would be controlled without destroying nearby farms. The third fortress would be surrounded and offered peaceful surrenders. The first preparations required silence and speed. A group of selected warriors claimed the rocky side beneath the signal fortress. During the night, the path was so narrow that they could not carry heavy shield. One mistake could send a man falling into darkness. Boran led the group. He had survived many battles, but that mission tested a different kind of courage. There would be no loud charge and no large army behind him. If the guards discovered them early, the warrior would be trapped against the cliff. They reached the lower wall shortly before dawn. An Ottoman agent inside the fortress has promised to leave a small service gate unlocked when Buran touched the gate. It did not move for a moment. The entire plan appeared to have failed. Security whispers that the agent might have been captured, and other warriors suggest breaking the lock, but the wound sound would alert the guard. Boran examined the gate and discovered it not locked. A heavy wooden cart had been placed behind it. Someone inside had blocked the entrance, perhaps without knowing about the secret plan. The warrior used rope to climber higher. One man nearly lost his grip when loose stone broke beneath his foot. Boran caught him up, but the moment caught a small rock to fall. A guard heard the sound and approached the wall. The Ottomans pressed themselves against the stone. The guard looked into the darkness but saw nothing. After waiting for several moments, he turned away. Boran moved again. When the first warrior reached the stop, they attacked the nearest guard before an alarm could be raised. The fighting remained quiet for only a short time. A soldier shouted and bells began ringing. The fortress commander rushed from his room, believing a much larger force had entered. Boran used the confusion instead of spreading in small groups across the entire fortress. He moved directly toward the signal tower. If he defended little the warning fire, Iznik would learn that the campaign had begun. A Byzantine soldier reaches the tower carrying a torch. Security struck the torch from his hand just before it touched the prepared wood. The two men fought on the narrow stairs while smoke from the fallen torch filled the space. Below them, Boran warriors opened the main gate. Ottoman soldiers waiting outside entered quickly. The defenders soon realized resistance was impossible. Boran offers them a choice. Those who put down their weapon would leave. Most surrendered. The fortress had been taken, but Orhan gave strict instructions that the warning system should remain active. Ottoman soldiers would light normal signals at expected times so that Iznik would not immediately realize the position has changed hands. These deceptions gave the army valuable time. The operations against the grain road required a different method. Orhan did not want to burn field or size every food cart. Such actions would push his villagers more than soldiers. Instead, he orders his men to inspect the transport moving toward Iznik and prevent large military supplies from entering. Farmers carrying from their families or local market would continue carts controlled by imperial officials would be stopped. Merchants would receive payment for goods purchased by the Ottoman army. This policy confused the Byzantine governor. Reports said Ottoman soldiers had appeared on the road, but food was still entering the city in small amounts. He could not understand whether Orhan intended to begin a full sign. The uncertainty caused him to make a mistake. He sent a large military unit to clear the road. Orhan expected this response. The Ottoman scouts watched the soldiers leave Iznik. They moved through a valley where the road became narrow. Orhan had placed archers on both sides but ordered them not to attack until the imperial force passed the central point. By the Byzantine soldiers entered the valley, fallen trees blocked the road behind them. Ottoman horsemen appeared ahead. Arrows struck shield from the hills. The imperial commanders tried to organize or to defend, but his men could not from a wide line. Orhan offered surrender. The commander refused and orders an attack. The fighting was fierce but brief. The narrow ground prevented the Byzantine unit from using its full number. Ottomans were attacked from control position and slow broke the information. Many imperial soldiers surrounded when their commanders fell. Orhan orders that wounded enemies receive treatment. Some of his warriors protested, reminding him that these men had marches to kill them. Orhan replied that an injured prisoner was no longer an immediate threat. The character's vows to Ottoman state would be revealed through its statement of powerless people. Among the prisoners was a young Byzantine officer named Adronox. He had expected tortures and executions. Instead, an Ottoman healer cleaned his wound and gave him water. Asked why Orhan showed mercury, the healer answers that the Sultan wanted victory, not meaningless suffering. This simple statement distributed the officers more deeply than cruelty might have done. He had been told that Ottoman's warriors were will men would destroy everything in their path. The reality before him did not fit the story used by the governor. Orhan later questions. He did not demand secret information under threat. He asked about conditions in Iznik, the number of soldiers, and the governor's plan. Refused to answer military questions. Orhan respected his loyalty. He said soldiers who easily betrayed his commanders could never be trusted by a new ruler. Instead of keeping him a prisoner, Orhan sent him back to Iznik with a message. The wounded soldiers captured in the valley would be exchanged for civilians improvised by the governor on accusations of helping the Ottomans. The governor became furious when returns he suspected the young officers had been turned into an Ottoman agent. Although explained what had happened, the governor placed him under guard. The decision damaged the morale to the city's soldiers, they say, as a loyal officers punished merely because Orhan has released him. They began wondering whether their own governor trusted anyone. The third fortress present another challenge. Its commanders, Turkish Marocs, as was executions but honorable man. He had served the emperor for many years, but disliked the new governor of Iznik. He believed the governor's cruelty towards civilians would create rebellion. Orhan surrounded Morocco's fortress but did not attack. He sent a message offering safe passage for all soldiers and resistance if then surrenders. Marcos rejected the offers. For the 3 days, the Ottoman army remained outside. Sane equipment arrived, but Orhan continued to understand that resistance would eventually fail. Without believing the offers of safety was a sign of weakness. On the fourth day, a Byzantine messenger secretly reached the fortress. He carried orders from Iznik telling Marcos to hold his positions until reinforcements arrived. Ottoman scout captures the messengers before the enters, but Orhan allowed the letters to reach Marcos. His commanders were surprised. Why give the enemy hope? Orhan explained that a false promise from Iznik could weaken Marcos' trust in the governor. The Ottoman army controlled the road. No reinforcement was coming. Marcos could wait and slowly understand this. His own leaders has abandoned him. 2 more days passed. Food inside the fortress began running low. Marcos and scout at night, but Ottoman patrols captures them. Still, Orhan threads the scouts well and returns one with another offer of surrenders. Marcos finally requested a meeting outside the walls. He arrived wearing armor but carrying no sword. Orhan met him with only a few men. Marcos asked whether Christian soldiers would truly be allowed to leave. Orhan promised they had leave with personal possessions but no heavy weapons. Those who wished to remain under Ottoman's authority could keep their homes and continue working. Marcos studies Orhan faces. He had negotiated with many commanders who made promises only to break them after victory. He asked what would happen if imperial armies later returns. Orhan replied that anyone living under his protections would be expected to obey the law. Those who choose to fight for Byzantium in the future would be treated as soldiers, but their families would not be pushed for their decisions. Marcos accepted the terms. The fortress gate opens without bloodshed. Some Byzantine soldiers departed toward Iznik. Others remained tired of being used by distant rulers. Marcos chose to leave but publicly thanked Orhan for honoring the agreement. The peaceful surrenders became an unimportant message across the regions. Others, small force, learned that Orhan promises could be trusted. Several commanders began secretly considering negotiations rather than destruction. The governor of Iznik reacted with rage. He ordered Marcos arrested if they came near the city and announced that any commanders surrounding to Orhan would be remembered as a traitor. His harsh statement made peaceful surrenders more difficult, but it also revealed his fears. Orhan's circles now tightening around Iznik. However, the Empire was not inactive. A new Byzantine commander named Alexis had been selected to organize relief for the city. Unlike the defeated officers at Karasai, exclusive, terrified, slow, and hidden movement, he understood that Orhan's scouts watched the main roads. He divided his army into several smaller groups, discussed a merchant vicar and local guard weapons were hidden beneath grain and cloth. The groups would gather near Iznik only after passing Ottoman patrols. As Porca learns of the plan through a letters from one of old contact. The message was written in a careful code using reference to trade and family visitors. She recognized the meaning and brought it to Orhan. She commanders distracted the letters. They defeat the contact might be feeding false information that draw Ottoman soldiers away from Iznik. Orhan considers both possibilities. He asks Esporka why the senders would risk helping them. She explained them the man belonging to be a noble family pushed aside by the new emperor. Alexis had confiscated some of their lands. Helping Orhan might be his way of taking revenge. Orhan said revenge could produce useful information, but it could not produce reliable loyalty. The contact might betray either side depending on personal interest. Instead of acting directly on the message, Orhan ordered his scouts to search for signs of hidden military movement. They examined unusual group of merchants, changes in grain transport, and travelers using less common roads. One scout discovered a cart carrying farming tools that were far too heavy for their size. Beneath a wooden floor, Ottoman soldiers found sword, shield, and a war suite. The wearing was true. Orhan now forced a difficult choice. If he arrested every disguised soldiers, Alexis would realize the plan had been discovered, had changed his approach. If he allowed them all together, they might create a strong force close to Iznik. He decided to let several groups pass while secretly making their movement. Ottoman agent follows them from a distance. Orhan group were delayed through broken bridge road inspections or false reporters of dangers. In the way, Alexis believed his plan was success, but only part of army reached the meeting point on time. Alexis established a hidden camp in the forest north of Iznik. He planned to attack the Ottoman supply line while the city soldiers laughed a second attack from inside. If Orhan turns toward the forest, the governor would strike the signed positions. If he harmed near the walls, would destroy the food and weapons behind him. This was a strong plan, and Orhan respected it. Underestimating a skilled enemy was one of the fastest paths to defeat. He created a false supply camp containing empty barrels as damaged equipment. A small number of soldiers made the locations appear active. The real supplies were moved to another route during the night. Scouts found the false camp and reported its positions, believing he had discovered Orhan weakened Alexos prepared his attack. At the same time, the governor of Iznik received a secret message telling him when to leave the city. The message has to cross Ottoman's lines. Orhan's agent captures the messengers, copies the letters, and allows him to continue. Now Orhan knew the timing of both attacks. He planned Boran near the fall supply camp and Aladdin with reserve soldiers. Between the soldiers and the city, security led men close to the southern gate prepares to block the governor force. Orhan himself remained where both sides believed they could see his main banners. The battles began before sunrise. Soldiers moved silently through the forest and attacked the false camp. The first guard retreated as planned. Byzantine troops entered and began overturning barriers, only to discover they contained sand and stones. Boran archers appeared among the trees. At the same moment, the gates of Iznik opened. The governor's soldiers rushed toward the Ottoman signed positions. They expected many warriors to move north against. Instead, security met with them with a prepared line of shield. The governor realized too late that the plan had been exposed. He ordered a retreat, but Ottoman horsemen moved behind his force. The soldiers from Iznik were caught outside the protections of their walls. Orhan did not want the entire unit destroyed. He knew desperate men would might more violently if they saw no path to survival. He left a narrow route open toward the city, making the retreat possible but difficult. The governor abandoned many of his soldiers and escaped through the gate. When the city guards tried to close it quickly, wounded Byzantine men were left outside. This act created anger among the defenders. Their own governors had sacrificed them to save himself. Orhan ordered his warriors not to kill the abandoned men. They were taken prisoner and treated as the forest. Elections recognized the trap sooner than expected. They organized a disciplined withdrawal rather than allowing panic to spread. Boran attempted to close the path, but Alexis led a strong counterattack and escaped with a large part of his army. Although the Byzantine plan had failed, Alexos remained dangerous. Some Ottoman commanders soldiers the battle a complete victory. Orhan disagreed. The governor had lost soldiers and public trust, but Alexis had learned about Ottoman tactics. Skilled commanders who survived defeat could return stronger. Orhan ordered the scout to follow him, but Alexis had prepared false track. Several groups moved in different directions. By evening, his true location was unknown. Aladdin warned that Alexius might attempt another attack on Bursa on the supply road. The army could not focus entirely on Iznik while such a force remained free. Orhan faced the problem every expanding rule eventually encountered. His territory had become too large for him to personally defend every point. He needed commanders capable of making decisions without waiting for the direct order. He placed trusted leaders in charge of Bursa defenses and gave Aladdin authority over the main supplies network. Boran would continue searching for Alexius. Orhan remained near Iznik for maintained pressure. This division of command carried risk message and arrived late. Commander missed might understand his intention, yet refusing to share authority would create an even greater weakness. A state centered entirely around one man could be defeated simply by keeping that man occupied. Aladdin accepted his role but understood its weight. Protecting supply line did not bring the same public glory as leading an attack against city walls. However, without food and weapons, the campaign would fail. He organized stations along the road between Bursa and the Ottoman's camp. Each station stored limited supplies so that the loss of one would not destroy everything. Mounted messengers carried